International sanctions have been reimposed on Iran for the first time in a decade. Iranians are already feeling the effect as gold prices and exchange rates increase. The sanctions were originally lifted under the 2015 nuclear deal. But France, Germany and the UK accused Iran of violating its nuclear obligations and launched a so-called Snapback process to have UN sanctions reimposed. Residents of Tehran have reacted, debating whether negotiations could still help the country recover from its economic struggles.
The government must negotiate. This is a world of business. One must get along with everyone, with all countries. Until when are we going to keep fighting? We won't gain anything.
We have to accept at some extent that the US is governing the world. It's effectively the police of the world. We can negotiate with the main party, which is America. Why should we negotiate with the Europeans or other countries?
Negotiations are useless. We were busy with the negotiations when they attacked. They are not trustworthy at all. The deals you make with them, their negotiations, none of them can be relied on.
And Tohid Asadi has more from Tehran's Grand Bazaar.
Here we are in the Grand Bazaar of Tehran, the economic heartbeat of the Iranian capital, and we have been talking to people about their anxieties, concerns and frustrations regarding the reimposition of new United Nations Security Council sanctions, which is going to put additional amount of pressure on their lives. We have to keep in mind that the country has been dealing with sanctions over the past decades, and additional sanctions are going to further complicate the life for ordinary citizens. They are also worried about the security concerns with respect to the war that took place in June when the Israeli and American bombers started to target Iranian nuclear facilities, military commanders and very civilian infrastructures. This is a complicated situation and people are feeling this pressure in their pockets, but they are waiting to see how the Iranian state is going to respond. Tohid Asadi, Al Jazeera, Tehran.
Let's take a look at how sanctions on Iran have built up over time. In 2006, two UN Security Council resolutions ordered Tehran to suspend uranium enrichment. Nuclear-related technology was banned and senior officials' assets were frozen. A year later, another resolution imposed travel bans and implemented an arms embargo. In 2008, further restrictions tightened financial and trade controls, adding more individuals and entities to UN watch lists and stressed compliance with IAEA inspectors. Well, 2 years later, another measure banned heavy weapons sales, restricted ballistic missile development and broadened asset freezes. In 2015, the Iran nuclear deal lifted these sanctions in exchange for limits on uranium enrichment and full IAEA monitoring. The snapback mechanism now restores all of these restrictions. Mohammad Reza Farzanegan is professor and chair of economics at the Middle East Research Group at Marburg University. He joins us live from the German city of Marburg. Good to have you with us. So, first of all, what is your estimation now of the decision that Iran will take regarding the NPT? Will it stay or will it withdraw?
Well, Iranian government has announced that they would still stay in this agreement. And I guess that is also a wise decision for the Iran to stay and keep the diplomacy and the talk with the other side open. So my expectation that would be a positive expectation regarding keeping commitment from the side of Iran with respect to its nuclear program.
What about the relations with the IAEA? Will it also keep the inspections intact?
Well, there's a growing domestic pressure on Iranian government, especially from parliament and other institutions, to stop that flexible collaboration with IAEA. With that respect, I would see more restriction forthcoming in the coming days and the weeks, and I would see a growing tension on that aspect, which makes these inspections more difficult.
Just how damaging will these sanctions be to the Iranian economy?
Well, the reactivation of UN sanctions, pre-2015 sanctions, would have a mixed effects on Iranian economy. Not all the UN sanction would have the similar damaging effects on Iran. Those related to its nuclear and missile industry would be more strategic effects on development of Iranian defense capacity, which might have less impact on Iranian ordinary population economic life. The more serious one, which would have more consequences for economic life of Iranian people, would be those which are related to increasing inspection of transportation of goods and services between Iran and the rest of the world. I would see here more disruptions of foreign trade on Iran. Import and export becomes more time-consuming, expensive. The insurance costs will increase. And that is something which ordinary people in Iran would feel it by firing inflation rate and consumer prices. So this is a more crucial part of these UN sanctions, plus the fact that financial restriction would be more severe and more global. So these multilateral sanctions differ from the US sanction in terms that all 193 member states are obliged or have committed to implement that. And this has a more legitimacy.
Will that increase the domestic pressure on the government? Is that likely? Well, we saw that strategy did not work during the 12-day attack on Iran, where it seemed like people were rallying around their country. Will sanctions do what the war couldn't?
Well, you're right. I mean, these external pressures are not necessarily weakening the ruling state. In contrast, what our research, which is recently also published, shows that the major victims of these international sanctions are middle class of Iran. So our analysis also shows that over the post-2012 sanctions, the size of middle class in Iran has significantly reduced. And this is bad news. It's a kind of a strategic failure of the sanction for the West, I would say, because the very class of the Iranian society, which is pro-reform, pro-democracy, and pro-modernization, is suffering under the sanctions. And what we do see is also empowering of ruling elites. And this is something which I don't think the purpose of these sanctions were defined based on that. So as you correctly mentioned, rally around the flag, it has increased, especially after 12 days war with Israel. And I would see probably an increasing perception among the Iranian population that these sanctions are unfair, unjust, and there is no basically good reason to intensify that on Iran.
Okay. Mohammad Reza Farzanegan, Professor and Chair of the Economic Research Group at Marburg University, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Don't miss out the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.